Hi friends, so I'm going to share something with you that you probably won't be hearing by any green group, by any left media, by most people on the left, and certainly not on the right. You won't hear it in the mainstream media, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because this is the other inconvenient truth, and this is why, the main reason why the lungs of the planet, the Amazon rainforest, is basically going up in smoke as we speak, at a football field a minute. Now, I'm going to share something with you. I'm not going to go right into the what's happening in the rainforest right now, as in the how many fires, there's tens of thousands right now, but I'm going to go into the culprit, the main culprit of this, and that we're all responsible for this. And you'll understand why that is when I read about 3 small paragraphs from this book, Cowspiracy, The Sustainability Secret, which was released a couple of years ago. If you haven't seen the documentary, please watch it. If you haven't seen their other documentary, which is coming out, I'm not sure when it's coming out, but you can see their Instagram called Seaspiracy, Seaspiracy. Please check that out on Instagram. It's got some shocking facts, which is related to this, and you can check out their other documentary, What the Health. Anyway, I'm going to share with you just page 15 from this book. The more research I did, the more I found that the situation is actually worse than I thought. In 2009, Robert Goodland and Jeff Unhang, environmental advisors to the World Bank Group, released an analysis on human-related greenhouse gases, concluding that animal agriculture was responsible not for 18%, as the FAO stated, but was actually responsible for 51% of all greenhouse gases. 51%. Yet all we hear about is burning fossil fuels. The difference in the figures is due to the factors that the FAO didn't take into account, such as the massive loss of carbon sinks from clear-cutting rainforests for grazing, in addition to the respiration and waste produced by animals. Goodland and Arnhang used the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, the global standard for measuring emissions set by the World Resources Institute and World Business Council on Sustainable Development, to reach the figure of 51%. According to their calculations, animal agriculture is the #1 contributor to human-caused climate change. I also found out that raising animals for food consumes 1/3 of all the planet's fresh water, occupies up to 45% of the Earth's land, is responsible for up to 91% of Amazon destruction, and is the leading cause of species extinction, ocean dead zones, and habitat destruction. And he goes on to say, how was he not aware of this? He said, how is it possible? I wasn't aware of this. I prided myself on being up to date on environmental issues. I thought this information would be plastered everywhere in the environmental community. Why didn't the world's largest environmental groups, who are supposed to be saving our planet, have this as their main focus? I went to the bigger organization websites, 350.org, Greenpeace, the Sierra Club, the Climate Reality Project, Rainforest Action Network, Amazon Watch, and was shocked to see they had virtually nothing on animal agriculture. Why would they not have this information on there? What was going on? And then he goes on to say, I had to find out. I teamed up with fellow filmmaker Keegan Kuhn to see if we could get to the bottom of this. Anyway, that is the documentary you should see, Cowspiracy, The Sustainability Secret. That's what turned Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize recipient Chris Hedges, vegan. His partner, Eunice Wong, took him to see that, and he was shocked, and he went vegan straight away. Other people, that has had the same effect. I wish that people would just go vegan because we don't have the right to torture and kill 1 trillion land and aquatic animals every year for trivial reasons and mostly palate pleasure, because we do not need animal products at all to survive. We can easily meet all our nutrition requirements, all of them, from plants and other non-animal sources. So the only reason we're destroying the Amazon rainforest, and before there's these fires, it was an acre a minute. That was due to land clearing for animal agriculture and soy to feed animals in overseas animal feedlots. This was happening before these crazy fires, which the President Bolsonaro, who is a right-wing, and I'm sorry to say he's really unhinged, with the help of Donald Trump, because they've made a deal that they're going to basically destroy the Amazon rainforest. Donald Trump doesn't care. And so that they can reap the resources. There's 1 million indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest. There's millions and millions of species in there. And they're the lungs of the planet, and now it's burning at a rate of a football field a minute because of this. Because of this. I've known about this now for at least, well, I've been vegan for 15 years. I've known about this for at least 14 of them. And then when I read the report in 2009 by the Robert Goodland and Unhang, 51% of greenhouse gases from animal agriculture, and I thought, oh, well, something might happen. Something might happen now. You barely saw it anywhere. And you got all these trolls trying to discount the science. Then we have, just only in the last year, probably a little bit over a year now, we have the largest study to date, 119 countries, 40,000 farms. The largest study to date, a scientific study, was reported in the journal Science, and that actually concluded it was 90% of all the foods we eat from farm to fork, and they concluded that a vegan diet is the single most important thing one can do to address not only the acidification and the eutrophication, the destruction of the oceans, etc., but the climate crisis is more than driving electric cars and turning off light bulbs and Earth Hour, all that sort of nonsense. Really, we actually, every one of us, and I've been talking ad nauseum about this, and it makes me angry to now see that it's actually escalated now, and Bolsonaro is actually allowing these cow farmers, who really actually are just basically doing, they're just trying to make money, right? But they're actually responsible for, well, probably twice as much clearing now. A football field a minute of incredible old growth trees. They're just laying on their side. All these millions of species, where are they going to go? Where is all the carbon going to go? All the carbon that's stored, a huge amount of carbon, all going to go up into the atmosphere. We've just now accelerated the imminent human extinction and extinction of most other species by God knows what, because now that is going to heat up, it's going to increase the temperature in the oceans and on the land, and that's going to cause accelerated permafrost melting, which is going to release methane, which is a much more potent, greenhouse gas, methane, with a shorter lifespan, but it's much more potent. That's going to be going up into the atmosphere, which is then going to cause the ice, the Arctic to melt and the Antarctica ice to melt, accelerate that. And it's also going to affect the East Siberian Arctic shelf, where the methane is going to be, if only 1% of the methane came up from the East Siberian Arctic shelf due to warming, it'd be all over for us within a few years. It would increase a few degrees in a few years, and it'd be all over. This is what we're doing right now in the Amazon rainforest. I don't know whether to cry or to just start smashing things. Because I don't know how often I talk about this. I'm going to show you those two memes, if I haven't already, about this largest study to date. It's only just, it was only like a year and a bit ago. And do you think anybody really pays attention to it? I mean, there are people are realizing it, but we're not really doing, there are lots of people I know that are very intelligent that are just sort of pretending like they can do all these other things, like, maybe drive less and eat less meat, that nonsense, and all that kind of crap. Just baby step nonsense. And yet, if we don't all cooperate and go vegan, one, because it's so violent to be doing this to sentient animals, right? That's the main reason we should go vegan. It's participating in tremendous violence. And two, we are insane if we keep consuming animal products, that's dairy, eggs, meat, fish, etc., when we are actually destroying the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the planet. We're destroying the air conditioner of the planet, the Arctic ice, the Arctic and Antarctica, which basically, if you've seen the end of ice, that's coming. And, we're really looking at it now. Like, it's, the Siberian fires are insane. They're crazy if you've seen that. This is apocalyptic, right? What's happening right now in the Amazon rainforest. It's been happening now for years and years and years. An acre every minute of Amazon rainforest cleared for cow rearing and for soy to feed animals in feedlots all over the planet. That's been happening for years and years. I've known about this for years. You must watch Cowspiracy, and then you must take this issue so seriously, like it's a life and death thing, going vegan now. We can't wait for these stupid, awful oligarchs to do the right thing for the planet and addressing environmental devastation. We cannot wait for them because they're not going to do anything. I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't think they care about their children. They say they do, but I don't think they do, because if they did, they would be doing something right now. They care about their pockets, lining their pockets. They care about serving corporations. They care about that. That's what they care about. Most of these people in power, that's what they care about. And the Western governments are the worst. We consume the most. And the reason the Amazon is going up in flames now, the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the planet, is because, mostly it's because we are not vegan. That's if you read all the different articles about this, that is the reason. They're burning forest so they can put cows down on there and then sell those cows and whatever. Because we're creating demand for those animal products. That's what's happening right now. So if you see these hashtags, pray for Amazonia. Amazonia doesn't need our prayers. Amazonia needs us to fucking do something. I'm sick and tired of people just pretending they can do this later. They can go vegan later. That's not really important. That's a personal choice. You hear this from Extinction Rebellion even. So-called, who's supposed to be edgy and radical. All these different green groups are full of shit. I'm sorry, they are. Because the biggest driver, the major driver, which is demonstrated scientifically. So if you don't believe that, if you don't believe now that cows and other animals, animal agriculture, is the greatest driver of the climate crisis, and is the greatest driver of the destruction of the oceans. Oceans also are responsible for keeping the planet cool. And a lot of heat is in the oceans right now, too much. And permafrost is melting on the seabeds. And that is coming up and causing more warming. We have pretty much at this point, well, with things like this happening in the Amazon, we have runaway global warming at this point. And I find it the irony that we're so attached to our palate pleasures, our taste buds. We would rather keep on using animal products like dairy, eggs, fish, meat, etc., than address in an emergency of our imminent extinction. And that's why I keep saying I think our species is too stupid to live, because I don't see any evidence otherwise. And I used to be a consumer of animal products. I used to be not vegan. So I've been contributing to all sorts of greenhouse gases and destruction. So this isn't a judgment, really. I'm just sort of like, Now when I see things like this, I just go, yeah, that's right. I just think, yeah, that's right. It's just going to keep on going until we're all basically starving, because eventually it'll be too hot for plants to survive. And those who are attached to their animal products, there will be no animals to exploit because there'll be no plants to eat. So one way or the other, you're going to have to stop eating animal products. The worst way is that there will be no plants to eat and those animals won't be around. They'll be dead. And of course, we'll be dead too. Or we can choose to go vegan and mitigate the impending catastrophe, because I don't think it's actually stoppable at this point. But we could mitigate it to some degree, to a large degree, if everybody went vegan. And it is not impossible to do it. It's quite simple to do it. And it's not expensive to do it. It's actually, a lot of poor countries used to consume a plant-based diet. That is a complete myth when people say it's expensive. And it's not elitist, and you don't need to buy pre-made products. I barely ever buy pre-made vegan products. Barely ever. It's very easy to be vegan. Very easy. Beans, greens, veggies, fruit, nuts, grains. Beans are cheap, and you can do a lot of things with beans. Anyway, please watch this. Please watch this documentary. Please look at that report, that largest report, science research to date that I mentioned, and I showed you those two memes. I mean, the second meme, did you see how much land is available after animal agriculture comes to an end? How much land? It's continents, huge continents. And watch the end of ice that you can find on Chris Hedges on Contact. Watch the end of ice. Because we're contributing to the end of ice, and the end of ice is disastrous for all of us. And one thing we never seem to consider is that there are 99.99% of the planet's population are non-human. And they didn't ask for us to come here and make a complete mess, particularly in the last 100 or so years, and destroy their home and exploit and kill and torture and maim and trap and drown and all the awful things that we do to them every single day. 200 million plus land animals are tortured and killed every single day, and we don't even need those products. We don't even need that food in our system. In fact, it's killing us in the amounts we are eating them. A balanced plant-based diet is completely nutritionally adequate, completely. And it's better for us, and it's better for other animals and for the planet, as you can see. Now, I just want to talk about some of these fires, and then I'm going to wrap it up, because I don't know. This Pray for Amazonia thing, I just think that this doesn't need our prayers. This needs action. It needs us to go vegan. This praying and thoughts and prayers and bullshit like that. We don't need these thoughts and prayers things. We need action. We don't need to be sort of trying to bring an end to capitalism. Good luck with that. I'd like to see the end of capitalism. I really would. But that's not going to happen in time, is it? Good luck to, trying to get these fossil fuel industry to stop doing what they're doing, or these governments to care one iota about what happens to you and I. And the corporations. Good luck. The corporations are interested in making their shareholders happy. Governments are interested in lobbyist groups and lining their pockets, and they don't seem to care that we're coming to an end. In fact, if you've seen my video about what Donald Trump and the transportation industry put in one of the released documents that Noam Chomsky said was one of the most shocking things he'd ever read, where they said, we may as well not worry about emissions from the transportation industry because it's going to be all over at the end of the century, so why bother? That was actually in a transportation document. Have a look on my site on Faint Signals from Vega and check out the video I posted. It was on the Ralph Nader Hour, Noam Chomsky talking to Ralph Nader. Anyway, so they're talking about how is the forest cleared? Usually by bulldozers either pushing against the trunks to force the shallow roots out of the ground, or by a pair of the machines advancing with a chain between them. In one vast stretch of recently cleared land, we found giant trees lying on their sides, much of the foliage still green, and patches of bare earth drying under the fierce sun. Later, the timber will be cleared and sold or burned, the land prepared for farming. In other areas, illegal loggers carve new tracks through the undergrowth to reach particularly valuable hardwood trees, which they sell on the black market, often to order. Okay, so they're knocking down the forests and they're selling expensive wood, and then they graze cows. Or they grow soy to feed animals on farm lots worldwide. Satellite images show a sharp increase in clearance of trees over the first half of this year since Jair Bolsonaro became president of Brazil, the country that owns most of the Amazon region. Most recent analysis suggests a staggering scale of losses over the past 2 months in particular, with about a hectare being cleared every minute on average. So that's like 2.5 times what it used to be. So he's increased, he's actually given the green light to animal agriculture to just go ahead and burn down forests left and right. There's no sort of overseeing of any of this. And if we were vegan, there wouldn't be any need. There wouldn't be any need for supplying beef, end quote. The reason they're doing this and putting cows on that cleared land, cleared Amazon rainforest, is because we're creating demand for those products. There wouldn't be any need for that. There wouldn't be any need to clear that land for cows if we were all vegan and not creating demand. So we're directly responsible for that if we're eating animal products. And I'm not suggesting that you just stop eating beef. I suggest you stop eating all animal products, dairy, particularly their cows too, but stop eating all of them because they're all responsible for many, many devastating effects on the planet. And we do not need them, and most importantly, they're sentient animals, and it's outrageous that we kill so many every minute, thousands every minute. It cannot do anything but affect us negatively to have this sort of violence going on all the time. And it's completely unnecessary. So that the Amazon rainforest holds vast amounts of carbon in its billions of trees, accumulated over hundreds of even thousands of years. Every year, the leaves also absorb a huge quantity of carbon dioxide that would otherwise be left in the atmosphere, adding to the rise in global temperatures. By one recent estimate, the trees of the Amazon rainforest pulled in carbon dioxide equivalent to the fossil fuel emissions of most of the 9 countries that own or border the forest between 1980 and 2010. The forest is also the richest home to biodiversity on the planet, a habitat for perhaps 1/10 of all species of plants and animals, and it is where 1 million indigenous people live, hunting and gathering amid the trees. According to a senior Brazilian environment official, the impact is so huge that he took the risk of giving us an unauthorized interview to bring it to the attention of the world. Now, this is actually on the BBC.com, which is interesting. Maybe they're actually starting to take this seriously now. I don't know. To mention animal agriculture, usually they don't, they'll leave that out, or they'll just call it farming and stuff. They don't, because all these large mainstream media, they get their advertising money from a lot of, from animal agriculture, from industry that makes all these animal products into cheese and all these various things. So they don't want to affect their advertising dollars. So they don't mention things like this. So anyway, this particular person had to meet in secret because Bolsonaro had banned his environment staff from talking to the media. And he gave this startling picture of an under-resourced teams of government experts passionate about saving the forest, but seriously undermined by their own political masters. And he thinks that believes that the figures for deforestation could be even worse than officially recognized. He says there's a government attempt to show the data is wrong, to show the numbers don't portray the reality, he told me. Basically, Bolsonaro, the president, the right-wing president, who's pretty much a fascist, has sort of just called them all liars. I mean, he's sort of like, in many ways, Trump. Trump just lies like a rug, and so does Bolsonaro. And they won't care until, there's an ecocide on the planet. And they're doing a pretty good job, really, as Trump is undoing all these environmental things. Not that the previous Obama administration was much good, but he's just a lot more crass. And, I mean, this is the thing, we're relying on these psychopaths to do something. I mean, seriously? That's why we can do something without relying on these psychopaths, because they're not going to do anything, as we can see. I mean, this should be seen as a global emergency, what's happening in the Amazon rainforest right now with the tens of thousands of fires. There's so much fire that Sao Paulo had billowing smoke. It was all sort of, you can see that the smoke it looks apocalyptic in the sky. And now that the rainy season is coming to an end, it's going to be even worse. The BBC or whoever did this interview tried to get interviews with environmental and agricultural ministers, and they were refused. I mean, this is where, there should have been an international effort to actually put in money to preserving these rainforests and paying these farmers to do something different. I mean, this is where you need a global effort, a global governmental effort to address this. Otherwise, this is the sort of thing that happens too, because those farmers are just trying to make money, and Bolsonaro said, go ahead, burn down the forest and put in the cows and the soy to feed cows overseas. And so they go, okay, and away they go. These people need other forms of income, and we could have all been, with all the sovereign economies in the West and elsewhere, we could have all actually managed this. But see, this is where you have no vision. There are no people, there's no any leaders in government anymore. Nobody with a real vision, and we're not working as a global community. And right at the end here it says, a leading figure in the Farmers Union in the city of Santarém, a hub for soya and cattle, told me that other countries had cleared their trees for agriculture but now wanted Brazil not to do the same. You see, this is one thing. We do it, but they're supposed to not do it, and sort of, is there any alternative for these farmers to make money? Vanderlei Weger said the US and Europe, which buy produce from the Amazon region, produce being beef, cow flesh, have far less stringent controls on their forest, and that Europe, quote, has very little forest left, end quote. We have to develop the Amazon. Quote, we have to develop the Amazon. More than 4 million people live here, and they need development too. It's a constitutional right of every Brazilian citizen, end quote, he said. There's some truth in that. But I mean, this is where the global community, the global governments should have been helping protect this by doing everything possible so that these people don't end up doing what they're doing right now. And I'll just read you this bit from telesurenglish.net. Brazil's forests have the highest burn rate in 7 years. Experts say that the fault lies with humans, farmers and ranchers who are deforesting, then burning the land. Brazil has experienced its highest numbers of fires in the past 7 years, according to official government data. Some 71,497 blazes have hit the country between January and mid-August, and half of these occurred in the protected and megadiverse area of the Amazon. The number of wildfires between January 1st and August 18th of this year is 83% higher than during the same time frame of 2018, according to the National Institute of Space Research, which keeps track of the nation's fires via satellite images. The Institute said it registered 38,228 in the Amazon alone, and 30% were located in the savanna trees that border the world's largest rainforest. Can you see that? It's amazing. Nearly 11% of the major flames occurred across the nation's Atlantic forest along the coast. The spread of fires in the region has forced some Amazonian states, such as Amazonas and Acre, to declare an emergency or environmental alert because the smoke increases respiratory diseases and has affected air traffic. The effects of the fire and flames even reached Sao Paulo, the nation's largest city, earlier this week, creating premature darkening over the metropolis. When asked about the spread of the fires, President Jair Bolsonaro dismissed criticism that he and his administration weren't doing enough to prevent or control the flames. Bolsonaro told reporters this was the time of the year of the queimada, or burns, when farmers use fire to clear land. Quote, I used to be called Captain Chainsaw. This is Jair Bolsonaro. Now I am Nero, setting the Amazon aflame. But it is the season of the queimada, end quote, he told journalists. According to the INPE, the outbreaks of fire in the last week alone have affected 68 environmental or indigenous reserves, mainly in the Amazon. In a particular article, they say that according to the organization, fires caused by farmers and quote-unquote livestock breeders can get out of control. Well, yeah. According to the Institute of Man and the Environment of the Amazon, IMAZON, which has studied the region for 28 years, the deforestation rate in the Brazilian jungle grew by 66% last July, although that percentage is as high as 278 according to INPE projections. 66%. PE director was later fired by Bolsonaro, who called the data lies. See, this is what you're dealing with. The new president is promoting mining and logging in the Amazon areas, saying by doing so, he is, quote, now get this, this is the sort of unhinged people, and I'm being polite, we're dealing with here. He said by doing so, he is, quote, fulfilling a mission from God, end quote. So, well, there you go. We have a complete unhinged, I wish I could think of a word that wasn't ableist, but anyway, we have an unhinged person as president of that country, and I knew it was going to be a disaster. He said he was going to do this sort of thing when he got in. The U.S. has helped him get in. They meddled in that country, and he got in, and now the U.S. is going to benefit from this destruction, in the short term, of course. The interesting thing is the U.S., and this is amazing, but the Pentagon actually said that it's going to be devastating for the military, climate change. So in the next 20 or 30 years, devastating. And so they don't even know how to look after their meddling machine, their imperialist meddling machine, the military, which also is one of the greatest polluters as well. The U.S. military is a huge polluter on the planet and is one of the largest consumers of oil. And so they're meddling in all sorts of countries trying to get these fossil fuels, which we shouldn't even be doing anymore. I mean, we should have all converted to all sorts of renewable energy by now, way, way ago. And here we are still driving these ridiculous fossil fuel cars. I mean, you couldn't make this shit up. If an alien came down here and saw this, they would probably just shake their head and take off again. It's just insane what we're doing. Anyway, I urge you to please go vegan. Please look at those memes again. The most recent study to date, the largest scientific study to date, the single most important thing we can do to address the climate crisis and the acidification of the oceans and eutrophication, a destruction of the rainforests, as you can see, which many articles, they all talk about the cow raising. Cow rearing is the greatest destructive force, and soy to feed cows. We can do something right now, this very second, the minute you finish this video. I urge you to check out howtogovegan.org. That's the podcast I've made, which helps internalize the ethical position, which will help you stay vegan. I urge you to check out nutritionfacts.org, which will help. It's a great site for nutrition about veganism, about a plant-based diet, and it also gives the horrors of consuming animal products. It talks about that. It's all science-based. There's no woo-woo stuff in it. It's all science-based, looking at the latest science journals, the latest medical journals, the latest nutrition journals, compiling them all into short videos. So it's very, very helpful. And then stop wearing animal products, stop eating animal products, and let's stop using these sentient beings, period. And let's start pushing for real peace on the planet and do something proactive instead of waiting for these people like Jair Bolsonaro, who thinks he's on some mission from God, okay? People like that, they are totally whack jobs, basically. And so are a lot of these other people in government that are not doing anything about this. Psychopaths and whack jobs, and we should just bypass them and do what we can. You can continue doing, I think I'm all for nonviolent civil disobedience. I think that's a very, very important thing, but I'm not for organizations like Extinction Rebellion that ignore veganism or tell people, don't worry about that, that's a personal thing you can do. At some point, it's not really important. I think that's a disgrace. Any green group who ignores veganism and isn't putting that forward as something that everybody should do. Before you make a donation to our organization, you should become vegan. And that goes for any animal organization that claims to care about animals. They should all be vegan first, and they should not take one donation until everybody is vegan. If you believe in animal rights at all, animal rights, then you have to be vegan. You can't, so it's just sort of like the hypocrisy is absolutely mind-blowing. And the idiocy is even worse. That we should be allowing what's happening in the Amazon to happen, and we are all responsible if we're eating animal products. We're all responsible. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. Another rant. I'm doing a few rants lately, and if you've seen any of my other, if you check out my playlist, Climate Crisis, and just look up those playlists, and you'll see a bunch of different videos I've done on this issue. And veganism, of course, I include that in my vegan playlist as well. So do check them out. And if you have any questions about veganism, please don't hesitate to ask. We really have to just be honest and say, okay, enough. Enough excuses. Enough excuses. I'm making enough excuses. I've done it for a long time. I need to stop making excuses and really take this seriously. It is a matter of life and death. Not just for us, but for billions and billions and billions of other animals, and for all those species in that Amazon rainforest that are being burnt alive, and all of the animals, the 200 species a day that are going extinct because of the climate crisis. And think about what's coming, and think that you can do something right now. Anyway, I've spoken long enough, so thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please click the notifications bell, otherwise you won't receive updates when I drop a video, and please click the like button if you like the content. Thanks for watching. My name is Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Till next time. Bye for now.